Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to one of the toughest tests in motorsport, Sebring International Raceway, and we're here for round 7 of the DWREC season, and it's time for qualifying in a circuit that is as brutal as it is legendary. The track, built on an old airfield, 5.95 kilometres of concrete and asphalt, 17 corners, and one surface that is notoriously bumpy. The cars won't just be fast out there today, they'll be fighting the circuit every step of the way. That begins with a blast down to turn 1, taken at high speed with barely a lift. Commitment is everything. Then a heavy braking down into turn 3. A prime overtaking spot in the race, but in qualifying, it's all about getting the car slowed down and getting back onto the power early. Through the middle sector, it's relentless. 5, 7 and 10, technical, bumpy and unforgiving. The car is never truly settled and drivers have to wrestle it into submission just to keep the lap alive. Hit the bumps wrong and you lose time instantly. Then comes the run towards the final sector, the famous sunset bend, fast, wide, and absolutely critical. Get the entry right, carry the speed, and let the car run out to the edge, because that exit speed will carry you all the way to the line. Get it wrong, and you'll just watch the lap time fade away. Qualifying here at Sebring is a real challenge. The surface evolves, and the grip comes and goes. Putting together a perfect lap on a track that's unforgiving is no easy task. Because today, it's not all about speed, it's about control, precision, and surviving the bumps along the way to hook up that perfect lap. So buckle up everyone, the engines are fired, the tyres are ready, and the timing screens are about to come alive here at qualifying in Sebring. And as always, I am joined by the wonderful Zach. Zach, how are you doing this evening? And what are you looking forward to at Sebring as qualifying just starts to get underway?
Hey Lewis, I'm doing great. This has to be one of my favorite tracks to see. Sunset can be, quite an exciting corner going into turn 1. I mean, there's a lot of technical corners. We got a lot of great drivers out on the track today, so I think we're looking at quite a show.
Absolutely. And talking of quite a show, let us have a little look at the championship standings as they currently stand after we were out last time. So let's have a little look at our pro class first. It's Eric Gerhardt who continues to lead the way, 1,767 points for him, leading Harrison Brinker on 598. Red School comes in behind on 1,478. And then we've got some changes of position as Nick Djokovic moves up to 4th position, Nicholas Rivera down to 5th. Jan Hilden moves up 1 spot to 6th place, and Timo Gartner down 1 to 7th on 1,061 points. We've got Matthew Severton on 964. And the star of the start of the season, Max Patton, has been missing in action to only have 660 points at this stage of the championship. Having a little bit of a look at our very competitive Pro-Am class, it's Gabor Nagy-Beyer who leads the way on 1,546 points. He gained 2 positions last time out at Laguna Seca to take the top step of our championship standing. Sean Ferreira is very close in behind him with 1,531, and Daniel Kovacs takes up P3 and 1,488. Vincent Squibb, Rhodes and Carsten Walter make up 4th, 5th and 6th, with Akos Varga, Jeffrey Damon and Giuseppe Renza coming up to round out the end of the top 10, with Jordan Crawford taking that 10th place spot. Then going down to our AM class stand, it's JT Sawyer who leads the way. We've got a comfortable 300-point lead right now, but he is being hunted down by Kip Blair, who has been on the charge and doing very well in this season. Unfortunate to have a collision that took him out of the race last time out at Laguna Seca, and that's dropped him down all the way to 5th position with just under 1,000 points to go. And, well, we've got round 7, 8, 9 and 10 to come. They've only got 4 rounds left in the championship. Zach, do you think there'll be a bit of a change in some of these classes, especially in that Pro-Am class, very close together?
Yeah, I mean, Pro-Am's kept it pretty exciting all season. I think kind of anything's up in the cards, for anyone in that class. As long as they can show up and keep that car on the track, everyone's pretty competitive there.
Absolutely. Let's bring in our current qualifying times. We're watching Sean Ferreira, who right now has set the slowest time on the board, but he has set a time on the board, crucially, and currently sets himself up P8. And we can have a little look at who exactly is out there setting a lap right now. Garcia is out there, Kip Blair out there, and Jordan Crawford. They're all coming towards the end of their lap. Let's have a little look at Garcia now. You can see 2 cars coming around Sunset Bend there to take their final laps. It is going to be Kip Blair who comes across the line first to go 4th position and 3/10 off the pace. Garcia crosses the line 3.25 seconds off the pace, I should say. But for now, it is 10th position. Someone who's going very well towards the end of their lap. Daniel Kovacs, he's currently P1, but he set a purple 3rd, 4th and 5th sector. And you can certainly think he's going to improve on his current lap time of a 2:01.2. Comes up to the line. It's going to be a 2:01.198. But he's beaten by his teammate just behind him, the Pro Class driver of Eric Gerbhard. He sets a 2-minute 5:32 out there. And I think that this session is just going to, ramp up as the session continues on. As you can see, the 3 DRX sports cars, they are, all together on the track. I wonder if they're getting a little bit of a tow off each other down that back straight. Very important here, because there's not too many straights, apart from that very long one at the back end of the lap.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those tracks too where it's deceivingly difficult in the sense that pretty much everywhere on the track is pretty rough. It's very bumpy. It can throw the car off balance in a lot of different areas if you're not kind of right on the line that you need to be. So it'll be interesting to see how many of these drivers fall prey to any of that roughness on the track.
There's a few nasty curbs that you can kind of get yourself caught on around here as well. They're quite tall, and there was a little bit of a refresh of this this track coming into this season on iRacing. So very familiar track to a lot of the GT3 drivers out there today, but with some subtle differences and quite a big gap between qualifying and the start of the race today. Qualifying, I think, is around about 11 or 12 p.m. in sim time, but we're going to go all the way to 6 p.m. this evening to actually start the race, so I think the track's going to be very different. While we were chatting there, Timo Gartner currently takes the fastest time overall. He's done a 2-minute 0.64, and he takes up first position right now, but Daniel Kovacs is very much improving on his time, down in 5th position. Where does he go? He comes across the line. It's going to be up to 1st position overall. First driver to get into the 1-minute 59s with a 59.981, apart from Jan Hilden, who does a 59.659. And they're certainly getting to grips with their cars out there. I assume a lot of these drivers are going to have a lot of practice on this circuit, because of course we've got the special event coming up next weekend.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Sebring 12 Hour is one of the more popular events. I know with a lot of people, it's something everyone preps for. You're testing different setups, different track conditions. This is one of those tracks where warm tires definitely matter. That first lap or two can be real touch and go, and you got to be careful with that car.
Well, both in the qualifying, and I think we'll see it a little bit in the race as well, as everyone takes a couple laps to get their tires up to temperature. We can have a little look at the current weather at the circuit. I was a little bit off there. It's currently coming up to 2:30 in the afternoon rather than midday. Quite cloudy out there on track. Track temperature of 36 degrees Celsius. It's not the hottest I've seen, so it is pretty warm compared to a lot of the tracks we've been to. Of course, in Florida at this time of year, you're expecting it to be a little bit toasty out there, and it is March 22nd in sim and in real life, so looking like it is taking a few laps for those to heat up their tyres, as we watch Akos Varga, another one of the DRX cars, going a bit wide and catching a bit of dirt on the outside. It's currently 1.7 seconds off the pace, and indeed have a look to see if it will pop up to tell us what kind of improvement he's going to do on his lap, as Rudd School sets the fastest, I'm going to have to count that, 5th sector of the lap, And the track also divided up into lots of mini sectors compared to what you would expect. Out there as Daniel Kovacs in P3 there, Timo Gartner in P4, and Eric Gerhardt in P5, looking like a pretty consistent top 5 as compared to what we've seen most of this season. Got a few cars coming out the pit lane, waiting for those to cross the start-finish line to get going on their lap.
You know, one of the other interesting things today is going to be the wind. We've got, at least right now during qualifying, it's up to about 22 kilometers per hour, but it's a little northeast facing, so you'll get a nice tailwind coming out of Le Mans onto that back straight, which might give some of these drivers a little boost to get them across that line.
Of course, you don't want to boost too much because, well, you're kind of on the throttle, and at least when I've gone through Sunset, you're kind of hoping that you don't hit the wall on the outside. And a little bit of a change in wind, I think, could really change your lap of being in the wall or not, especially when you're pushing right on the edge in qualifying.
Absolutely. You enter that corner just a little bit off, and it has a tendency to shoot you out to that outside wall. So you add any wind to that, and it'll most certainly push you out there.
Absolutely. And yeah, very tricky corner. Like there's so many lines you can take through Sunset, and well, if you're on the wrong line, it is not going to be particularly fast. And it'll be interesting to see once we get into that race. You can try some different lines in order to run up a pass on someone and try something. On the outside, as we see, Jan Hilden, he comes across the line. He set the fastest lap to date, 1:59.588, and improving nicely out there as he moves himself a little bit further to the top of the table. But Carsten Walter has set 2 purple sectors out of his lap. He goes 4th place with a 2-minute 0:02, just so close to being dead on 2 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of these times are looking really close between the Pro and the Pro-Am classes. So I think we're definitely going to have an interesting race on our hands, at least for the first couple laps.
Absolutely, and well, I wouldn't discount it being interesting past the later laps as well. We're looking at less than a second, covering the top 8 right now, and indeed. Can be a bit of a melee on lap 1, especially coming through that first corner where it's possible to go 3 wide at some points, but then the track very quickly becomes quite thin, and well, you end up with a 3 into 1 doesn't go kind of situation. While we're waiting for some of our drivers out there to set fast lap times, Harrison Brinker, he comes across the line, but I think his lap might have been invalidated because he doesn't come up on our leaderboard. Let's have a little look at the track that we are at today. If you're unfamiliar with it, Sebring here in Florida in the USA on the international layout, 5.8 kilometers or just a little bit less. Currently looking at air temperature out there, 36 degrees Celsius. I think that might be the track temperature. 25 degrees Celsius is the air temperature, and that strong wind that Zach was talking about earlier on, and it's going to make it very interesting as there's a few good overtaking spots on this track and a more traditional GT3 circuit than we've been to over the past couple of weeks. We should get some very good track action out there today.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting, the decisions that these drivers will make. You know, a lot of the corners here at Sebring depend so heavily on your entrance into the corner and how well you get those exits. So it's going to be really important for these drivers to set up those corners where, you know, maybe you don't try diving the corner. You try to get that really nice exit, really good entrance, and you just end up carrying so much speed, you can drive right past them on any one of these straights.
Absolutely. We're on board with Harrison Brinker here, and he's yet to set a lap time on the circuit that is valid right now. But, well, he's coming up to the start-finish line, down the all-important back straight, coming up to 250 kilometers an hour before you hit the brakes down into Sunset Corner, and you've got to hope that you get that line right very close to the wall for him, hugging it tightly, and then right on the power as you head and try to avoid that outside wall. He comes across the line. What's he going to do? It is going to be a 2 minute 4.5, 2 minutes 4.35, I should say. He is going to want a little bit of improvement on that one, I think, to get himself close to the top. His P10 is not where he's set himself for the rest of this championship season.
Yeah, you know, he's been making quite the charge this season ever since the beginning, making his way up to the front, even though he had a couple rough races there in the beginning. He's made quite the impression the last 3 or 4 races and put himself up into second in that pro class. So I'll be interested to see how he performs today and if he's able to continue that, that winner's run that he's had these last couple weeks.
Absolutely. He's got JT Sawyer out there right now, who has just come across the line to make, what I thought of might be an improvement on his time. It's a 2:03.254, so no improvement for him. Sean Ferreira across the line does a 2:01.915, and they stay in 15th and 16th place, respectively. We got Michael Rhodes out there on the track as well. He's going to be wanting an improvement. He's currently 4.3 seconds off the pace out there, and certainly looking to go a bit further forwards than that, move up towards Jordan Crawford, Akos Verga, they are, he is competing with out there on in the Pro-Am Championship. Let's see what he does when he comes across the line here. It is going to be a 2 minute 2:062, which about 10 minutes ago would have set him towards the, very close towards the front of this grid, but now it only puts him in P17. And that's the kind of improvement that I think Harrison was looking for there as he comes through turn 1. Currently goes 3rd place right now with a 1:59.8. Still just under 4/10 off the pace, but it certainly is an improvement for him. And I'm sure that he'll have some good battles with Jan and Rudd in front of him if he does indeed stay in that position.
Absolutely. He's still got 11 minutes left too, so there's plenty of time to, increase that fastest lap and see if he can get into that P1. But I think between these top 3 drivers, it's definitely going to be a very interesting race. Indeed.
And yeah, they're all looking pretty speedy. I think Daniel Kovacs and Carsten Walter will be wanting to get themselves involved there, as well as Timo Gartner and Eric Gerbhardt. They're going to want to move a little bit further forwards. They are only half a second off the pace or so, so not a massive amount of time to find. A little bit of a wiggle for Harrison there, getting out of that corner. Maybe a little bit too much on the loud pedal, as Nick Djokovic goes P7 overall with a 2 minute 1:05. And he heads to the pit lane. I think a few of these drivers might be heading to the pit lane to get their cars refueled, get some fresh tyres on, and, well, get themselves ready for the final run of this qualifying session as we approach the final 10 minutes. I think we might be right with that, with both Nick and Eric in P7 and 8 heading towards that pit exit to head back out on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd imagine here, you got about, once you hit 10 minutes, you got maybe, up until the 6 minute mark at the most to get your car out there for that last run and make sure you got time to get those tires warm and get a couple good laps and see how you run.
Oh, a great lap for Harrison Brinker there. We said that he might be okay with 3rd. He wasn't. He is going all the way to 1st position with a 1:59.433. And now that's a target for Jan Hilden and Rudd School to aim at in their final runs in this qualifying session. Let's go and have a look at Jan Hilden, who is in that Chevrolet car and stuck with it all season long. Hasn't made any change. He currently sits 1.5 tenths off of that fastest time from Harrison right now, and it looks like he's certainly pushing that car right now as we head towards the back half of the lap. Can't say I do own it, and I have done a couple of races on it. Not massively familiar with the Chev in iRacing to see whether the instability I might be seeing is just all part of how to drive the car. But so we've got Simon Hartley out on track now in P18. He sets a 2:02.640 and moves himself up into 18th place out there. Still Stefan Heinrichs, who has been in the pit lane this entire session. He has not come out to set a lap time. Wonder if we'll see him in the dying minutes of this session. Let's see what Jan Hilden can do as we come around the final sector of the track, and very close to the wall. Push on that accelerator pedal as much as you dare so as not to hit that outside wall, and he's going to come across the line right now, and that's going to be a 1:59.9. He's going to need a good 4 or 5 tenths of improvement to beat Harrison's time, who is now heading to the pit lane, as well as Rudd School, who I think might have come in to reset his run. No sign of Harrison coming out of the pits just yet.
And, you know, this is one of those tracks, especially with how close in timing these racers are. Any one of these corners can give them that extra 4 to 5 tenths a second if they, you know, maybe got a little bit of a bad exit, a little bit of a bad entrance. You know, with a couple of these corners in particular that lead into some of these longer straights, if you just get a little bit of a better exit, you can see that time shoot up into that green sector.
Absolutely. Indeed. Let's have a look at some of those sectors out there as well, as no improvement right now from Jordan Crawford or JT Sawyer. Simon Hartley is having some good improvements during his lap, hoping to pop himself a little bit further forwards in that pack at the back of the grid. He's going to the final section of the lap now, and this is not what Jan Hilden wanted to see. Number 78 car of Varga there in his way, and on an out lap he managed to navigate his way around him quite nicely, but did it cost him those all-important hundredths of a second into the final part of this lap? Simon Hartley does a 2:01.6 to come across the line, and he ends up P16. Round sunset once more for Jan Hilden in the purple DWR car, all the way out to that wall there, and he comes up to the line once more. Does he set any sort of improvement on his own time? No, I think that lap might have been invalidated somewhere along the way, because we didn't even get the lap time pop up for him. A few more drivers heading out of the pit lane. Carsten Walter is at the pit exit right now. Rudd School and Daniel Kovacs and Eric Gerhard all on outlaps, as well as Michael Rhodes, all looking to improve. It looks like the sun might have come out a little bit more in this session and providing them with a little bit warmer of a track to try and improve their lap time. Of course, the whole time as well, been laying down lots of marbles to and a lot of rubber on the track as well to try and grip up this track circuit.
You know, with this track, you know, there's not a lot, if any, trees around like you have on some others. So once that sun comes out, that track is going to heat up pretty quick, especially when you have a bunch of these cars driving around, you know, heating up that asphalt and getting that rubber set in.
Absolutely agree with you there, Zach. And let's see whether we do get a flurry of lap times at the end here, with everyone bar 5 cars heading out onto the circuit right now. And whoa, that was a horrible snap for Nick there. He won't be setting a faster time with that snap through there. And see if there isn't a flurry of lap times of people improving as the circuit heats up a bit. Tiny bit more rubber out there as Michael Rhodes heads to the pit lane. Don't think he is going to be heading back out in this session. Maybe 5 minutes, slightly too short. Of course, you do get to finish your lap if you cross from the checkered flag. So you very much do get a chance out there. You've got a little bit more than 5 minutes, so long as you can get to the flag in time.
Jan Hilden able to get his time increase. He got a 1:59.434, putting him just 1/1000th of a second off the lead of Harrison.
You could not have asked for, as Nick goes for a spin at turn 1, you could have not have asked for a closer top 2 in this race, could you? With a display like that from Jan Hilden, 1/1000th of a second off the fastest time. That is absolutely crazy. And, well, I think that's going to be a very interesting race for those two, because they are so incredibly close together in terms of time.
Yeah, and these two have been really competitive with each other all season, kind of switching places between first and second, unless, one of them gets that unlucky accident or anything like that going on. But these two guys have been really going at it. It'll be interesting to see how these first couple laps go.
Absolutely, and who's going to want that lead? And who is going to want that kind of strategic advantage of being able to sit behind on someone's bumper and save a bit of fuel? Can be very important around here to cut off a pit stop. Quite a slow pit lane, relatively. You don't get to cut any corners like we saw last time out at Laguna Seca. And you pretty much just sit at pit lane speed the whole pit straight while everyone is absolutely blasting past you, and then you have you kind of come out of the pit lane very far off the track at turn 1, so not really any advantage to gain on any part of the pit lane here, as we're watching Rudd here in the 181 car currently trying to improve his lap time. He has Garcia in front of him on the track. And I think Garcia might be on a hot lap, so is not entitled, Rudd is not entitled for him to get out of the way. And it looks like he might be getting very close to pushing him along that straight. How's he going to deal with it? Into Sunset Corner. He's going to go very wide. And is he going to back off to set up his next lap? Or does he think this lap is going to be the one with a little bit of slipstream? He got off of the Ferrari, very close to the wall on the outside there. He comes up, he's grabbing the slipstream, he comes across the line, and for him it is going to be a 2-minute 8:11, which is very far off his best of a 1:59.778. And I think it might be wise of him to back off and give a bit of space to Garcia. Or is he going to try and overtake him on this lap? If I was him, I'd back off a little bit and give himself a bit of space to get another lap in after this. But there is only a minute and a half remaining. He can't back off too much. Otherwise, he's going to not have time to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe what he's trying here is just, get by Virgilio, try to get across that line before the time goes up and be able to get that fast lap. He is on his 3rd lap out, so there is a potential that he may or may not have enough fuel, but I would imagine with the amount of lifting he's done behind Virgilio, he's definitely got enough for at least one more.
I mean, he's trying in a few different places to try and overtake here. I don't see him flashing his lights or anything, because indeed, it is not on the car behind to let him through. He's just kind of been sat on his corner the entire lap, which must be quite distracting indeed. But I think with that overtake there, they are both going to get a second lap, or a final lap in this session as we count down to the final 30 seconds of this session. Sean Ferreira sets a personal best to go P15 right now. And, well, it's going to be down to one final lap here for Rudd, as he is going to try and dethrone either Harrison or Jan for first or second place respectively. Let's ride on board with him through this lap and see what he's able to do into the final lap of this session. The checkered flag is out, only just made it to the line. That's why he's pushing so hard. He's turning into turn 1, get very close to the wall. You can use the orange cone to spot your apex. Carsten Walter's not going to set another time in this session. He is going to stay P4, and neither is Rudd. He's pulling off the road and saying, that's enough for me right now.
Yeah, that's what I think it hit zero just before he was able to get his car across that line.
That is unfortunate for him. Well, that means that we're going to have Daniel Kovacs across the line. What's he going to do on his final lap here? It is going to be no improvement for him. It's going to be a 2:02:27. I think a bit of that cloud cover has come back in and maybe taken away some of the sun that would have given us a last lap sunny showdown. And I think that's going to be everyone back to the pit lane. Indeed, it is. Everyone back in the pit lane now. And, well, we can watch Barney the Flagman wave his checkered flag as the final couple of minutes count down of this qualifying session.
Looks like Mike Rhodes in chat is doing a little voting for himself to go back down to the AM class. Doesn't seem like he's having too much fun out there today.
No, towards the back of the field for Michael Rhodes, as he says, put Mike back in AM, and indeed, we will see what the class definition gods say in the little gap we have between Sebring and Road America, which is going to be our next track and the kind of end of our 3-race American tour that we've been on throughout Laguna Seca, Sebring today, of course, and Road America in 2 weeks' time. As we can see, those flags waving beautifully in the wind, and quite a lot of cloud cover right now, but we are about to transition ourselves to an evening time where a lot of that cloud will have kind of moved out, and it'll be a lot clearer in the sky, but it will be a sunset happening, so I wouldn't expect a massive increase in track temperature out there either.
Yeah, I think for a lot of these drivers, what you're looking for maybe is for that wind to hopefully die down a little bit. Keep from pushing you out of that sunset corner. But I think other than that, this is kind of the setup that we're going to be looking for. I don't foresee the track temp going up or down too much further, but we'll find out here as this last 5 seconds ticks down to our race time.
Here we are then. Everybody get themselves ready to be teleported, and wow, you can see the difference in the sky as it's a nice blue sky with a few fluffy clouds around, and I can't tell, Zach, is that wind a little bit less than it was before?
Just a couple kilometers per hour, but not much. We were looking at a high of about 22 depending on the straight. Looks like now we're looking at maybe about 19 to 20. So if a few kilometers down, but I don't know that it's going to be too much to make a difference. It's looking pretty close to the setup that we had during qualifying, short of the track temp actually coming down to about 28 degrees versus the 35 that we had during qualifying. So I'm sure drivers will be happy with that one.
Well, I'm going to take a very short break to the bathroom before we get underway. We do have a whole formation lap to go because I think it's going to be a very interesting start off this race. So Zach, please do take us away for the next minute or so.
All right, looks like we got about 50 seconds left. Racers probably also taking their last bathroom breaks before this next 2 hours begins. Like Lewis was talking about earlier, the fuel strategy is going to matter a lot here, especially with, how that entrance goes. You're coming out of one of the faster corners of the track, and you got to slow down, lose all that time to get to that pit entrance speed, and then take that pit entrance speed all the way through the lane, which all these other drivers are going almost maximum speed down that back straight into turn 1. So I think for a lot of these drivers, it's going to be all about fuel saving, finding that right time to pit, and trying to keep yourself clean out there. Maybe find a good drafting buddy to get as maybe skip a stop here at the end. We'll have to find out as this race continues. And here we go on the warm-up lap.
Thank you very much, Zach. Look at that for timing. Let's have a look at our starting grid then for this race, round 7 at Sebring. In fact, can we have a starting grid? It doesn't want to show us the starting grid right now, and we may just go and have a look here and see why we're not getting any sort of starting grid coming up on our screens. I can't seem to get it to show up, so I will recount it to you. It's going to be it is going to be Harrison Brinker, who is your pole sitter right now. He is going to be followed by Jan Hilden, Rudd, School, Karsten Walter, Daniel Kovacs, Timo Gartner, Gabor Nagibea, Eric Gerpard, Kip Blair, Matthew Cheverton, Akos Varga, Jordan Crawford, Andy Keane, Sean Ferreira, JT Sawyer, Michael Rhodes, Stefan Heinrichs, Simon Hartley, and Garcia. And I'm seeing on my screen that Nick Djokovic is currently in the pit lane.
Maybe he missed that start. Maybe he thought better and decided starting from the pits might be an easier way for him to make his way up the track. We know he had a couple little spins and spills throughout the qualifying, so maybe that kind of put his confidence down a little bit to be able to start in the front of that pack.
Indeed. Well, let's see, as they are in 2 lanes and they're all trying to warm their tyres up. And that's going to be very crucial in this race start. We were saying during qualifying, it can take a couple laps to get up to speed. And your first corner is that very high speed left-hander where you need all the grip that you can possibly get. And how you heat your tyres up on this lap is certainly going to make an absolutely massive difference to how that first corner is going to go for you.
Absolutely, and this is one of those American tracks where we actually get a full lap warm-up, which is, more than some of the other European circuits, and I think even some of the other American circuits. So definitely get a lot of time to build some heat into those tires, maybe do some hard braking, some quick weaving, try to get those core temperatures up as high as you can before the start of this race.
Indeed, and I can see quite a few cars out there who are doing that weaving. They're going back and forth quite violently, quite quickly. One of the quicker ways to heat up your tyres, as well as you said, some heavy braking, some quick accelerating. You all got to do it safely so that you don't cause a pile up back there. And you can actually see Harrison. You can see him accelerate and brake hard, all in an attempt to try and transfer some of that brake temperature into his tyres before the lights go out and we get a green flag underway. You can see Jan Hilden doing the exact same thing, coming up to the back of the pace car, and now you've got to kind of take your mind off of that tyre heating, because the pace car is about to peel off, and really you just need to be focused on absolutely nailing that start as we come round Sunset Bend here. It is going to be Harrison Brinker who leads the way right now, and the pace car is going to peel into the pits. Green flag here at Sebring, and there's a big fan out of cars in the background. It's 4 wide in the back, but it is Harrison Brinker who keeps the lead. Is everyone going to make it through turn 1 without incident? It's very wide there. I hope everybody makes it through. There's a car spinning in the middle of the pack. Some cars are going to have to get there, as there's massive chaos as Timo Gartner is off the road in the middle of the pack. There's a car facing sideways there. We'll go and have a look back at that in a moment. Jan Hilden being challenged by Daniel Kovacs, who in the background is being challenged by Karsten Walter, who is up 1 position to P3 as it stands, but he's currently alongside the Porsche of Daniel Kovacs. He's on the inside. Is he going to be able to make it work here at this hairpin corner? Down he goes, late braking on the inside, but that now becomes the outside and the inside once more. Is he going to stick with it? They're still side by side, but I think for now Walter gets ahead. Is that going to continue as we head later into the lap? Around the outside, the Porsche is looking. It forces Karsten Walter to the inside to try and defend, but he holds on to that position. But we are about to come into the later section of the track where you want to stay right glued to the back of someone and get momentum as you head on that back straight, heading towards Sunset Corner. Walter still stays in front, but they've also got Rudd School in behind him, and Daniel Kovacs, teammate of Eric, who is even further in the background there, as the first two are starting to build a little bit of gap on the rest of the pack.
Yeah, quite an exciting start. We had a couple little spins there in turn one, but it looks like all these drivers were able to keep their heads on a swivel and avoid any major damage or accidents. So good on every one of those drivers out there for being able to maintain around that first corner.
Austin Walter having to defend on the inside down into Sunset Corner. Here's where we're going to see the other lines come out, and you've got to look both in front and behind you, as it's Rudd School now who gets his way back to the back of Daniel Kovacs here, but he's managed to put himself alongside Carsten Walter here. Let's see, is he going to be able to stick it round the outside? Restricts that corner for Walter. Kovacs around the outside. He's got to be careful to not lose another position up the inside to Rudd School as they're going along wide. Rudd has a little bit of a look down towards turn two, but he's going to stick behind for now, and they are as they were for Carsten Walter, Daniel Kovacs, and Rudd School. We've got Stefan Heinrichs into the pit lane, and not sure what happened to him. We can go and have a little look in a moment, but for now we have got a two-horse race here, or should I say two different races, as Harrison Brinker and Jan Hilden are together, and the fighting of these two has let them pull a little bit of a gap, 2.5 seconds the gap.
Yeah, the driver's doing really good out there. Rudd Squirrel even keeping himself as a little meat in the sandwich of his teammates there.
Indeed, and they're all backing up behind Carsten Walter right now, and there's a good couple of cars who are kind of building up behind him, not particularly because Carsten is slow, but along that back straight, the slipstream can be worth so much, especially if you're behind a wider car like the Chev. Everyone just feels like they're pulling up to the back of you.
Yeah, sometimes it's always difficult being that leading car, especially on a track like this where, you know, lines can differ so much, braking points can differ so much. You know, you never know if that car behind you, especially with the Porsches, who are known to kind of be able to push that braking zone a little bit later than most other cars.
Indeed. Well, he's trying now. Looks down the inside, does Daniel Kovacs, but it is not going to work for him this time around. Come round that Sunset Corner, and you've got another chance to absolutely nail it on the throttle and then have a look up the inside for turn one, but it can be a very risky move. You can accidentally end up spinning the car in front of you just by washing a bit wide, but for now it looks like he's sticking in behind, and they're forming a little bit of a pack away from Daniel Kovacs, who is away from Eric Gerhard, who is Daniel's teammate, and hoping to move away into their own little pack are these three sets of cars. How successful is it going to be? Well, we're just going to have to watch over the next few laps to find out.
Yeah, we're heading into lap 3 now, so these tires are really going to be coming into their own and coming up the temp. So we'll see if that's going to help any of these, front engine heavier cars be able to put a little bit more grip down and maybe make up some of that time that would have been lost a little bit to these rear engine cars that tend to have a little bit of an easier time on cold tires with the balance.
Indeed, and the Porsche is a car that can really heat up its tyres, and you can see there's two in this train. So I do wonder if a little bit of their advantage will start to fade now they're in, a good few laps of this race, and maybe everyone's got their tyres up to temperature. Looking at this battle for P3 here, it looks like the real loser off of the start has been Rudd School. He's down 2 positions, and they've been given to Carsten Walter and Daniel Kovacs. Good put starts for Eric and Gabor, both up 2 places respectively. I think one of those might have been Timo Gartner, who looked like he got involved in some sort of incident at the start of this race. Stefan Heinrichs was also in the pit lane, so I wonder if he was caught up in a little bit. It looked like there was a car spinning in the middle of the track at turn 1 on the first lap, and see exactly what has happened to them. Well, let's go and have a little look at what happened. We can go all the way back potentially to see what has happened to them, as the gaps look like they might be starting to open up. I've got to scroll back such a long way to see what happened. Let's go see what happened to Timo Gartner. Oh, he was involved in a spinning car in the middle there. I think we want to go a little bit earlier in that replay, and let's bring back time and see what happened. Oh, he was kind of tapped by a car that was trying to avoid the spin, and then there was a few cars on there who spun themselves. Akos Varga going off track there. I think just avoiding the car in the middle. I think that might have been Kip Blair potentially in the middle there. I'm not completely
You would be correct.
sure.
It looks like Kip Blair was the one that kind of kicked off the shenanigans that happened there in turn 1.
Well, let's see what happened to him, and we go into quarter speed, and I think he just caught up too quickly to the Porsche behind him, in front of him, should I say, slammed the brakes. That gave him a bit of oversteer, and then it's just chaos from everybody else trying to avoid. As you know, through turn 1, we said it was a tricky place, and wow, I think pretty well avoided from a lot of cars there. You see Timo Gartner, who's heading off there. Does anybody touch the wall? It doesn't look like anybody touched the wall there. There were just a few unfortunate spinners who, more than anything, just looked like they were trying to get out of the way of the collision.
Yeah, you know, for lap 1, turn 1, cold tires, you know, everyone was able to hold themselves together, get out of avoidance. We had those 3 cars, you know, it looked like maybe Matthew kind of just caught that tail end of Kip Blair's car as he was sliding, and it just kind of pushed him wide into Timo, which caused both of those guys to spin. But for the most part, everybody else was able to keep themselves clean. Maybe have to take an off track, but you know, I'd rather take an off track than get that damage from hitting that car in front.
Absolutely. I think one of the worst collisions I've ever had in iRacing has been around this track. Coming into the pit lane, there was a LMP2 car who hit the wall on the outside of Sunset and essentially bounced into the pit entry where my car was. And well, I would have much rather have taken a pit lane exit penalty there compared to a crash. I think almost anything is better than hitting the walls or hitting another car around here, because it can just cost you so much time. This track requires of you both great cornering grip and straight line speed, that any sort of damage on your car, even a little aero damage, can really hurt you, especially when the pack is so close together like we see here. Carsten Walter back to Eric here, 1.3 seconds in the battle for third place. And a few of those good battles as we look further back in the pack. Akos Varga currently trying to overtake Simon Hartley, with Matthew Severton and Nick Djokovic further back. Jordan Crawford on the back of Gabor Nagibeya. They're competing for second place in the Pro-Am class, where we're currently watching the guy who is P1. Sorry, they're voting for P3. Watching the guy who is P1 in Pro-Am. It's going to be Carsten Walter, as up the inside, Daniel Kovacs on Rudd School, who comes out on top right now. Oh, Daniel Kovacs is the car behind, and Rudd moves up into fourth place.
That was a nice little move from Rudd to be able to kind of duck on the inside and take that line where he knew he'd get the better exit. You know, we were talking about before, as these tires heat up, that Mustang can be quite a contender with those exit speeds. As long as you get a good entrance, it's a nice, you know, big engine car. It's able to really torque its way out of those corners and get that minimum speed up.
Absolutely, and yeah, now that they've all had a chance to heat up their tires, the Ford has been a formidable car in iRacing the past few seasons, and indeed, let's see if he's able to make some progress on Carsten Walter here and make it an all-pro podium right now, and see if he can't make his way up towards that battle with Harrison Brinker and Jan Hilden. They are as they were. I think Harrison just dropped a little bit of time in that middle sector, but they're bouncing between a second and a half. Maybe that's all part of their plan right now, to just try and move away from this pack behind them.
Absolutely. And now, that Rudd made that pass, we've got Daniel Kovacs and Eric Gebhardt, both on the Porsche, both on the same team that are together with each other. So we'll see if that kind of helps them. Maybe they get some draft going, get some bumping, and try to get back that the position from the Mustang, and maybe even get an extra one for the teammate behind.
Well, I think we've seen those two working together quite well this season, normally involving Carsten Walter, who's currently out just one car in front of them. So indeed, I think working together here going to be in their best interest, even if that working together is not fighting each other, just so they can kind of stay with this pack in front. Have a little look then at who's managed to make a good improvement throughout this race. Biggest winner right now, Sean Ferreira, he's up 6th position, as well as his Pro-Am compatriot of Michael Rhodes, also up 6th, I think benefiting from a little bit of the chaos that happened at the start. Nick Djokovic, he started from the pit lane. He's down 9 positions from where he qualified, but he wasn't involved in any sort of incident. He just started from the pit lane. It's really Timo Gartner, who's our real big position loser. We saw him at the start spinning sideways. He's down 7 positions, and he's got Matthew Severton, who's down 4 for company right now, as Matthew makes his way past Simon Hartley. Interesting to see a little bit that since Rudd has got past Daniel Kovacs, it looks like Carsten Walter has been able to build a bit of a gap. It's up to a second now, and I don't think it was the move that gave him that gap, but it looks like maybe the Porsche was just a better car at sticking behind him versus the Mustang right now, because yeah, his gap looks like it's extending over the past few laps.
Yeah, that whole pack seems to kind of have spread itself out a little bit, giving each other a little bit of breathing room. We'll see if they're able to close that back up as these fuel tanks empty. As cars get a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit faster.
Indeed. Well, Walter has stayed at about the same gap over the past couple of laps, but of course I think he's kind of pulled the pack behind him to stay there, and those two Porsches are very close together, probably doing a little bit of fuel saving. Got to be careful though that they don't bring Jordan Crawford onto the back of them, as Timo Gartner and JT Sawyer look like they're having a bit of a battle, and Michael Rhodes is involved there as well, as I think they were almost 3 wide in a space that didn't look like it was ready for 3 cars. Michael Rhodes very keen to keep his 12th position. Well, I think unfortunately for now, he's going to have to settle to be back in P13 behind the Pro Class driver of Timo Gartner, who's trying to make a charge forward in this race.
It'd be very interesting to see, how these Porsches are able to, keep up with these straight line speeds of some of these other cars. We know they tend to be better in the corner and a little bit slower on the straight. So I think having a drafting buddy for them or someone that can help pull them along is going to be really important.
Absolutely. Another position lost, unfortunately, for Michael Rhodes. He's got the Pro Class driver Matthew Sheverton, who's made his way past now. And, well, he is not going to be a fan of that one. He's lost 2 positions in this lap, both to pro drivers who had incidents at the beginning of this race. He does now have another pro driver behind him, Nick Djokovic, who I think will be coming up pretty quickly on him, as Timo Gartner very close to the back of JT Sawyer here. And he is going to want to make a little bit of movement forwards to get back up to that pro pack of Harrison, Jan, Rudd and Eric. But currently just the field spread has put him 20 seconds behind the lead.
Making the cut to the inside. We're going to see if he's able to keep it clean, keep it tight, and get a good exit speed coming out of this last corner. It does look like he's able to keep it alongside.
He does keep it alongside, but JT Sawyer in that McLaren actually manages to keep it in front of the Pro Class driver. Very nice indeed.
And that could be the interesting part about that sunset. Like we were talking about, the track there is very wide. There's so many lines that you can take, which means it's easy for everyone to get a good exit speed depending on how you set up that entrance. So it can be quite a difficult corner to pass on deceptively.
Yeah, that kind of obvious line you would take on most corners of just sticking up the inside and you know you've got half the move done. This doesn't apply to Sunset because of how much exit speed you've got to try and carry. Matthew Cheverton, looking down the inside of Timo Gartner, decides not today as... Oh, Timo Gartner gives a little bump to JT Sawyer there. Don't think he was expecting how much the AM-Class driver would slow down. Looks to me... Doesn't look like there's any damage on either of those cars, like I see. Maybe a little bit of damage to the front of the Porsche, I'm not completely sure. As Matthew Cheverton takes advantage of that situation, and indeed there is some damage to the front of that Porsche. Can see it bent in slightly, maybe a tiny bit of damage to JT Sawyer's car, can't see it right now, but the sun is reflecting off of them, so it does make it a little bit more difficult to see, but it is Timo Gartner who keeps that place for now.
Yeah, and the other, with the time that we're at on this track during the race time as well, that sunset bend is actually going to become true to its name. As, if you've driven this track before, driving into that corner can actually almost be blinding. As that sun comes down, it hits just over the horizon right into that windshield. And it can be really difficult for drivers to know where their braking points are and where that car in front is.
Indeed, and you can see it actually reflecting off of all of the cars as well, and the white lines around the circuit. It can make it quite a difficult look. Timo Gartner goes slightly wide, and I think that's allowed Matthew Cheverton to get alongside him, and it has indeed. Who is going to come out on top here as Michael Rhodes watches this battle from behind, and it's a bit of a sandwich between a Pro-Am and a Pro driver that's let Matthew Cheverton try and pull alongside. He's going to sweep around the outside very close to Timo Gartner's car. He makes the move work. He moves up into 12th position. Michael Rhodes is looking on the back of Timo Gartner here. I think decides a little bit better against passing the Pro Class driver because he may well just get repassed in a lapse time.
Turn one is another one of those corners right after sunset where if you set yourself up correctly, making a pass around the outside actually isn't a bad move. You end up putting yourself on the inside for the corner right after. So as long as you can keep that speed up, you can almost guarantee yourself that position.
Absolutely, and I think there was Nick Djokovic in the background there who was trying a move on Michael Rhodes. He wants to join in the fun with his Pro Class challengers in front, and he keeps having a little look in that Porsche, but hasn't managed to make his way past just yet.
Yeah, looking at these cars coming around that corner, it definitely looks like Timo's front end is looking a little worse for the wear. So we'll see if that's going to have any effect on his top speed in these straights, which we know the Porsche is kind of already hurting. So hopefully he can keep himself up onto Matthew up in front and kind of negate some of that front end damage that he's got.
Indeed, his rival might become a help here, as I think Matthew Cheverton is going to be looking to set up a move on JT Sawyer here. You can see he's very close. You can see that absolutely blinding sun reflecting off of both of their cars. Is Matthew going to make it up the inside? Seen JT defend a move like this before. Is he going to be able to do it again? They both stamp on the power on the exit of the sunset. JT Sawyer, I think, unfortunately, might be slightly further behind than he was last time around. Oh, I thought there was a little bit of a tap there, but I might have been wrong. JT looks to the outside, and I think he's going to have to concede this place this time round unless he's able to try something on the brakes, heading down through 2 and 3, and he's got Timo Gartner right on his back again, but a profit for Matthew Cheverton, his Pro Class rival of Timo Gartner, does have to get past JT Sawyer still.
Ooh, and it looks like there may have been a little tap behind with Mike Rhodes. Nick showing himself on the inside, and those two just kind of coming together in that corner there.
Let's see what happened to him as Michael Rhodes is on the outside. He's firmly on the outside. He starts moving kind of towards the inside of the track here and then goes for the racing line. Nick shows his nose up the inside. It's wheel to wheel, and indeed, it looks like Nick might have just... Oh, did he understeer into him? Or was it just kind of...
Yeah, it looks like maybe he took that corner just a little deep and didn't kind of keep himself tied into that tight corner there and just drifted a little wide into Mike Rhodes there.
And indeed, that has unfortunately sent him spinning sideways and lost him a good few positions. He's down to P17 as it stands right now. Not exactly sure whether that'll go to the stewards room. It did look, to me at least, a little bit on the side of potentially a racing incident. Potentially they were going for the same bit of the track, but maybe a little bit more on Nick being a bit ambitious on the inside. As while we've been away, JT Sawyer has been passed by Timo Gartner. And, well, Jordan Crawford is right on the back of Eric Gerpard here. That little battle out front has fanned out quite a lot. And indeed, we have seen the gap come down very much in the past few laps, and it looks like advantage to Crawford as it stands right now. Up the inside then, tries Crawford on Eric Gerpard here, and a beautiful little move up the inside of the hairpin corner, and he makes his way up into 6th position. And I don't think what's going to be the last we see of it, though, as Eric is looking around the outside, for there's nowhere for him to go as the Porsche defends on the inside. He gets a little bit of a worse exit than Eric on this occasion, and he's going to have to survive all the way through to Sunset Corner. It's Porsche on Porsche, so there shouldn't be a massive difference in terms of straight line speed between them, depending on the setup that they have picked. He's just got to stick to the back as the number 63 car through the airfield section here, and seeing if he can't use a little bit of slipstream on the backstrace. But Crawford does appear to be stringing out that gap a little bit. It's already at 0.6 of a second.
Absolutely, and if he's able to maintain this, he kind of breaks up that team group that was forming there between Daniel and Eric. So maybe that'll keep those two from working together. It looks like that gap has widened out between those two regardless. So we'll see if Jordan's able to kind of close that back up and get himself back in that fight.
Indeed, Eric looks like he gained a little bit there in terms of just overall time, but I mean, Jordan's managing to keep this gap at about half a second, and I imagine he's going to extend it a little bit over this lap, but not if he drives like that. Lets Eric catch up, but he takes a bit of gravel for it and potentially a 1x to go along with it. Be interesting to see how that transpires through the rest of this race. Oh, as we're sent to... we were going to have a look at Simon Hartley, but I think that he is in the pit lane and potentially out right now. I wonder if he has had a potential connection issue to the session, because he was driving on the track and I saw him pop in and pop out a little bit. Potentially some sort of issue for him. Let's see if we can't see if he'll pop back in a minute, but I think he's been sent to the pit lane.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I don't see any incidents or anything on my race control, so it's looking like maybe he had a bit of a connection issue, something like that, that sent him back to the pits and out of the client.
Indeed. Well, let's hope he manages to get himself back in the race out there. Having a little look at Rudd School here, who we saw try that overtake earlier. They're still in this battle, are these three cars for third place, that being Walter, School and Kovacs here, all pushing along quite nicely. And well, I think they're pretty happy as it stands right now to kind of just stay where they are and just pull away from that pack a little bit and wait until we approach the first round of pit stops. Indeed, we can see here, they're running very similar lap times. Walter is kind of edging out over the two of them ever so slightly, but it looks like it's a little bit of cat and mouse, a little bit of kind of back and forth here, where they're just all kind of staying close together, maybe not pushing particularly hard, doing a bit of fuel saving potentially, just to survive until they can play a few strategic games in the first round of pit stops.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. We're just about 30 minutes in, and Jan and Harrison have been able to build themselves about an 8 and 10 second gap to those cars behind. So I'm sure in their heads, they might be more focused on trying to catch those two before they run too far away, like we've seen in some of these other races. Indeed.
And, well, I think that's going to be a challenge for them. 7.5 seconds, the gap. That's quite the gap to overcome there, I think. But never say never in endurance racing, and we'll see what they might be able to do come at the end of this race. As you say, first half an hour is down. They're on 70% fuel tank, so expecting a little bit longer before anybody needs to come in for fuel, take a fresh set of tyres, and head back out there onto the track. Of course, with these little trains, the undercut or the overcut can be worth quite a lot to you, as it looks like Rudd School has lost the back of Carsten Walter a little bit now, and Daniel Kovacs is right on his back end, and well, he might have been happy to work with this group, but not if Rudd drops too far back off the third place man.
Looks like Harrison holding our fastest lap now at a 1:59.2. So he was able to beat his qualifying time within these first few laps here. So it's looking pretty good for him out there today. But you know, Jan's not far behind. He's got a 2.5 second gap. It hasn't really gained, hasn't closed. Seems like those two are kind of just maintaining now and trying to get to that first pit stop.
Absolutely, and well, we saw it happen in Laguna Seca as well, where Jan was able to kind of get up to the back of Harrison and stick there for a lot of the race. He had those unfortunate couple of incidents out there, and indeed, looks like we're seeing a repeat here, and hopefully for him, without the couple of incidents to go along with it. Daniel Kovacs then still keeping himself stuck to the back of Rudd's car here, and indeed that gap widening a little bit more towards the latter half of this lap, and I think that certainly if I was Daniel, I'd be getting a little bit frustrated that we're dropping back, and also dropping back towards the clutches of Jordan Crawford behind, who we saw pass Eric a little bit earlier on. He's been able to pull a 8 tenths now gap or so, and he's coming up towards this pack of cars reasonably quickly. I would say we can have a little look at the comparison of lap times. If we go back to Daniel Kovacs here, you can see on the past 2 laps, Crawford's been able to gain 6 tenths of a second on Daniel here, and well, I think that might, if that continues, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble after challenging for P3 a little bit earlier on. Matthew Cheverton then makes his way up past Kit Blair. Oh, they're going for a little bit of a tussle, and Kit Blair actually goes for a spin there let's see what happened back with Kit Blair. We joined them a little bit too late. In fact, let's have a little look in a minute as Timo Gartner is right on the back of Matthew Cheverton here. And is he going to try and move down into the hairpin? We know he's got a bit of damage on that Porsche, but it's not stopping him getting right under the back of the Mercedes. And Nick Djokovic very close in behind them as well. Simon Hartley now in the pit lane. I think that he might have reconnected to the session now. Very unfortunate for him as he currently sits 2 laps down. And I think Gartner is going to be able to make his way past. But let's have a little look at what happened to Kit Blair. It was alongside Matthew Cheverton here. And, I think that was 2 people who were heading for the same section of track. As far as I can see, I think one of them might have expected them to be in a different place. We can watch it at quarter speed here. And you can see that one of them's turning right and one of them's turning left. And, well, unfortunately for Kit Blair, he comes off worse for wear out of it. And, unfortunately, across the grass for him. But luckily not a barrier and is able to carry on in this race. He's in P13 overall as it stands. Zach, how did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It just looks like 2 drivers coming into the same part of the track. There's not much room for Rudd to go. He's, pretty much on that warning track, and then Kip is kind of coming to the left. So there's, that can be a particularly tricky section of the track with how the cars shift. We'll see if maybe that reaches the steward's desk. But to me, it's looking maybe a little bit like a racing incident. Just 2 drivers. Sometimes it happens.
Indeed, it's a quite a tricky circuit round here, especially in that first sector, and I think that a few drivers have fallen foul of that so far in this race. But for Matthew Cheverton, he is up to P10 right now after getting involved in that incident, and the guy that he was involved in that incident with, Timo Gartner, is right in behind him, 7 tenths of a second. Nick Djokovic, he started from the pit lane, he's in P12.
Yeah, we'll see if maybe these guys can sync up a little bit here and try and push themselves back up to that main pro pack and maybe get themselves a little bit closer to that, 4th, 3rd position.
Indeed. Well, they sit 31 seconds off the lead, but they are only 5 seconds behind Sean Ferreira as it stands. Then they've got another big gap, 7 seconds or so, up to Gabor Nagy-Beyer before they're kind of on the back of that pack that we were watching a little bit earlier, who are still very close together out there on track. And, well, it's also starting to get a little bit darker here with a little bit of cloud cover, and that's going to change the track dynamics as the track starts to get a bit cooler as we head later into the evening.
I think you're absolutely right. And, looking at these wins, they seem to have picked back up a little bit. I'm seeing max speeds of just about 23 to 24 miles an hour. So definitely going to have a good amount of wind pushing these cars around, which might make it a little bit more difficult to get some of these corners completed. Especially with those bumps, you can see cars as they pass over them. The very bumpy track here, and indeed it doesn't take you too much to kind of catch you off guard and send yourself into a spin, or just losing a couple of attempts from a little bit of a loss of control, a little half spin, a little slide or something. And indeed, when the battles are so close as they are, it's very important that you manage to kind of keep yourself heading the right way at the right speed, as it looks like these 3 have calmed down a little bit for now, and just hoping that they can push themselves forwards into Sean Ferreira, who is now 4 seconds in front of them. Yeah, they're all running about the same times, maybe the same speeds. I think the idea here with these 3 would be, let's get the fastest guy up front. Let's try to tow each other along. Let's close that gap, and we'll race each other once we get back up to the pack. Well, that is not the plan for Nick Djokovic right now. He is trying to get past Timo Gartner right now. I think maybe he's feeling that Timo's damage is slowing him down a little bit, and he wants to be the car who's on the back of Matthew Cheverton. But that has cost them about 8 or 9 tenths of a second or so, and you can just see the kind of increase in gap visually
that's kind of gone on there to see that it's kind of upset this little train, and it only takes them dropping out of the slipstream that these two will be by themselves. It'll be Matthew making his gain towards Matthew as the sun comes back out from behind the clouds and starts to put a little bit more heat into the track into the evening. Here is Nick gonna try anything as we head down towards turn 1. He doesn't have a chance in Sunset. Looks like he got a little bit of a better run out of the final corner. Is he going to have enough momentum in his car to try anything on Timo Gartner here? Or has he realised that Timo's going to fight and instead they should maybe work together to keep on the back of Matthew? Well, either way, it's no move for them for now. Have a look at a driver that we were watching a little bit earlier. It's Jordan Crawford, who is now right on the back of Daniel Kovac's hit. We said that he is catching at some speed, that little pack, and well, I think now he's arrived, and he's actually brought Eric along with him, and well, formed this pack up into the neat little bunch that it was at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They've done really well to get themselves back up there. We got those 3 Porsches, you know, trying to close that gap to that Mustang and that Corvette. We'll see if they're able to do it here. Maybe Eric trying to get by and get teamed back up with Eric there and see if he can, you know, make that space up. I know Jordan Crawford's not going to let that go. He's done really good in the race so far to get those positions up and kind of close that gap to these pro drivers.
Indeed, we see Garcia, who's into the pit lane now. He's our first driver to make a pit stop, kind of what we'd imagine as in sync for fuel and tyres, and that might signal to us that we might see a couple of these cars starting to come in over the next couple of laps. And as we say it, Jordan Crawford and Carsten Walter, they head into the pit lane and they break up this little battle for third place. And Gabor Nagy-Bayat, who is in the pit lane as well. They're currently 6th, 7th and 8th altogether. They're about to get passed by this crew, or are they, as Timo Gartner heads into the pit lane, Matthew Cheverton heads into the pit lane, and Nick Djokovic, he started from the pit lane, but that's maybe given him that extra lap of fuel to stay out a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm seeing about 19 laps right now. So with the length of the track, I'm guessing with a lot of these drivers that might be doing some fuel saving, maybe they're able to get 20, 21 laps. So I'd imagine here within the next 2 to 3 laps, we've got to be seeing the rest of these cars come in for that first pit stop.
Absolutely, and let's not bring that out. We can see who is yet to stop in this race, and Nick Djokovic does show one stop, but he started from the pit lane. That's why you're seeing that. He has not come in for fuel and tyres yet. So it's Carsten Walter who is the lead of all of those who have stopped for their stops. It looks like maybe Gabor Nagy-Bayat has managed to make up a position on Jordan Crawford there. Matthew Cheverton and Sean Ferreira out of the pits. Be very interesting to see where they come out alongside Rod School, Daniel Kovacs and Eric Gerbhard here to see if they make up any positions on those who have stayed out an extra lap. As Harrison, our race leader, he heads into the pit lane along with Jan Hilden, and that's our top 2 who are coming in for their first stop of this race. Almost exactly 40 minutes in, not really expecting any sort of splash at the end, and just having I guess a solid 2-stop race.
Yeah, I think you're right here, and very interesting to see Harrison set his fastest lap on that end lap at a 1:59, but Jan able to get some speed and find some pace as he runs a 1:58.8.
Very nice for them. We've got Stefan Heinrichs here. He's just made his way past JT Sawyer in that AM class. Let's keep an eye. It's Nick Djokovic right now, who has continued on for yet another lap and assumes lead of this race. However, I think unfortunately for him, he is not going to keep it as Harrison Brinker heads out onto the track and Nick still having to make his stop.
Yeah, I think for him starting in those pits, especially because we have a full lap formation here at Sebring, is going to give him that like 1 lap pit advantage. But as we come to the ending of this race, you know, I don't think he'll be able to keep it. As like we said, it's going to be a 2-stop race. So he'll shuffle back to his normal position there, I believe.
Well, talking of position shuffling, it's Rud School who has profited out of that pit stop cycle in the battle for 3rd place. He has come out, well, in the lead of that pack there and has managed to jump Carsten Walter in the pits. And then it's going to be Daniel Kovacs, Eric Gerhard, Gabo Nagibeya, and then Jordan Crawford. I think Crawford here has lost out a massive amount of time in the pit lane. He's dropped 10 seconds off of the back of this pack. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, whether he's taken more fuel than the others here or exactly what.
Yeah, I mean, we know he was the lead car trying to close that gap, so it could have been that he just used that extra few liters, which, you know, can add up to about, I believe, sometimes 3 to 5 seconds in the pit, so it makes sense.
Absolutely, and well, on this little outlap of the pits, those heating their tyres the best seem to be Rud School and Carsten Walter here, because they are they're heading quite away from the 2 Porsches behind them in this battle for 3rd position. Maybe this is reshaping a little bit how the rest of this race is going to transpire from them if they can pull away from the 2 Porsches behind and not get involved in too many battles. And that is our final stopper, Nick Djokovic. He has headed into the pit lane now. His Housen Brinker is going to resume your race lead. And past the pits they all go. That's going to drop Nick Djokovic back down towards his battle with Matthew Cheverton and Timo Gartner. But he is going to have the advantage of pitting that little bit less. You can see in the front of your picture, Jordan Crawford is heading through. And in the back of your picture, you can see Matthew Cheverton and Timo Gartner. And Djokovic, out of the pit lane, managed to have quite the gap on Cheverton there. And, well, that's worked quite nicely for him, but he's obviously now going to have cold tyres and is going to have to heat up back that car.
Absolutely, and looking over at Eric, it looks like we've got that team of 3 cars kind of grouped up here, but that leading Porsche kind of keeping himself gapped out. We'll see if these 3 are able to close it up together, maybe make a team effort to get themselves back up to the pack.
Indeed, I see Timo Gartner lost a lot of time. Let's see what happened to him. Oh, he went for a slide at turn 1, and he was heading off the road. Does he manage to keep it out of the barrier? No, unfortunately for him, he's picked up a bit more damage on that Porsche, and he was facing the wrong way. Let's hope he hasn't already used his fast repair so he can get back in that battle.
Yeah, that can be the hard part about deciding when and how to use that fast repair. You don't want to use it on one of those shorter repair times, come out on track, and maybe have yourself a bigger incident that you'd wish you'd saved that repair for.
Absolutely, as Rud School here, really challenging forward Carsten Walter. I think Carsten might have managed to get past of him at some point. I missed exactly when that was, when we were watching the battle on the exit of the pit lane, but Rud is not going to let it go, as he is still right on the back in that Mustang. All-American is this battle here at Sebring in terms of their cars, but I think that it's going to have to be the Ford who stays behind for at least one more lap.
Yeah, it's looking like whether it's the driver or the car, that Corvette looks like to have a little bit of an advantage over that Mustang out there today.
Absolutely, and, well, you'll have to excuse me. I have to take myself to the bathroom once more. I don't want to miss a second of this exciting racing, as I can see that when that pass for Rud School happened a little bit earlier on in the race. But for now, Zach, please do take us away with this battle going on.
Absolutely. Both these drivers, they're getting the heat in those tires. We're on that second lap out, so those temperatures really coming in, that grip really coming in, and it's looking like that Corvette is beginning to drive away from Rudd again here as Carson Walter takes these corners. Taking a little bit of a look back, it looks like that team of three has actually kind of started to separate itself out as well, with the leading Porsche still keeping himself gapped out about the same, but the two cars behind starting to kind of separate out as well. So we'll see if maybe these three have a plan to get grouped up and help each other out, or if it's everyone for themselves as we head into Sunset Bend. Looks like maybe that Mercedes in the back doing a little bit of extra weaving, trying to get that heat into those tires. As you know, like we said earlier, it's a 70% fuel tank. So you're not really running a full stint like you would in our 12 hours of Sebring. So for these guys, you could almost kind of use and abuse these tires a little more than you normally would with that 30% of the tank missing. You get a little bit more tire to use before you got to come back into those pits. And it's looking like Jan and Harrison up to about a 16-second gap to the cars behind. So definitely able to put a little bit more time between them. It's going to make it really difficult for these guys to catch back up on the time that remains.
Absolutely, 15 seconds is quite the gap to have established themselves with 48 minutes elapsed in this race. Looks like Timo Gartner might have gone off track, and he's